friends, it's me, Jenna, with the White Witch Parlour, and here in New England, it's October. So I want to talk about the thinning veil because during this time, the veil is thin, and traditionally, this is where pumpkin carving came from. But before pumpkins, we had turnips. The old Gaelic traditions like to scare away any vibrations that were coming into their energy field that were kind of low energy or demonic presence or just something you don't really want around your house or your energy. So to scare them off, they started carving really scary, spooky faces into turnips and lighting a candle to ward off evil spirits. And that is how the tradition of Samhain came about with pumpkin carving. Pumpkins were a little bit easier to carve than turnips, so that's where we came from. But when we are in the October Samhain autumn season, the veil is at its thinnest. The trees around us are turning into fall foliage. They're losing their leaves, and death almost seems to be taking over the trees, the bushes, the plants. You'll see the cycle of life kind of coming to completion before winter, before it becomes just a vessel once again for a blank slate to start over with a rebirth in spring. So while this veil is at its thinnest during the month of October in the autumn season, we get to experience tuning in to the frequencies around us that we aren't always necessarily aware of. Very often these energies are always around us, and we're so out of touch with that spiritual energy that we can't feel it. Sometimes these energies can creep in and lurk into our dreams or even into our subconscious mind when we're awake, not fully paying attention. Maybe when we're driving, we'll get a thought or a vision or a word that speaks to us. So this is a time that you'll notice too, you start thinking more of your loved ones who have passed away. You might notice things that were attached to their energy when they were alive. Like for me, my grandmother from Colorado always had the scent of lavender around her. And during October, I tend to find that scent following me even when there's no lavender to be found. It might come from going into a random place and finding a lavender soap bar or a sprig of lavender somewhere. And it's always that little reminder that grandma's nearby, grandma's saying hello. And those are the synchronicities that we tend to run into. Some people notice them and others don't. So the best thing to do is start tuning into those frequencies so you can be in tune with the spiritual realm if that is what you wish to do. When the veil is thin, it's the connection of life and death. They're merging together. They're becoming one, and we're able to tune in to this frequency of our loved ones who have passed on to the other side. This is where Dia de los Muertos comes in as well. The Spanish culture celebrates all their loved ones who have passed, not in tears, but in joy. They celebrate their life. They honor, they go to the graves. They sit with their families who have passed on. They bring them offerings. They bring them food. They bring them pictures of good, happy memories. And this is because during this time, the veil is at its thinnest. So it's believed that we are able to simply sit with our loved ones and almost touch them. And we can feel them stronger in our dreams and in our waking life. When the veil is thin, communication and connection becomes really potent. We're able to tap in and tune into things. If you're trying to manifest something, this is a great time for you to tune into your higher self and bring that manifestation into your reality and into your current existence. It's widely believed in the spiritual community that when our loved ones die, they're not gone. The energy is just shifted into a new state of being. And so we are able to tune into that energy. It's always there, just like a radio station. All the radio stations are existing as one, only we tune into one at a time. We don't hear all of them happening at the same time. So when it comes to working with thinning of the veil and tuning into ancestors or tuning into spiritual realms that you perhaps are doing seances for to learn more information, it is to use it like a radio and think of the fact that you're tuning into a frequency to pick up that station. And the reality is that all the stations are always there. They're never gone. Even when you tune out of that frequency, it is still playing and someone else is still experiencing it. During the autumn season in Samhain, you might even notice weird little things happening around your house. Maybe objects moving, getting misplaced, weird noises that are disembodied. Maybe you're noticing knocking and tapping on a door or window that you never had this experience of. And it's always going to be during the Samhain season, and you'll notice it the most during this time. This is when things go creak in the night. You'll hear footsteps, possibly. If you have a house that you feel has been haunted, that activity will definitely ramp up during the autumn season. If you've been trying to learn to heighten your psychic abilities, now is the time. During autumn, try your best to really own in on your natural given talents, because you're going to feel the energy stronger. You're going to feel an awakening within your third eye that feels more like a direct line of communication rather than something that you're trying to force. So if you're new to that world of tuning into spirit, you're gonna really just be able to easily make that connection, just like picking up a phone and making the phone call or dialing to that specific frequency for the radio station. If you're interested in things about thinning of the veil during the autumn season, look into literature. There is so much written about this, and a lot of it comes from the Victorian era. There was a huge fixation and fascination on death, and we used to celebrate death and hold on to death a little bit more dearly than we do now. Often cemeteries are forgotten, headstones are forgotten, and you visit a cemetery, you'll notice you don't really see many people visiting the headstones. Back in the Victorian era, we used to spend the day picnicking. We used to make it a family event to sit with our loved ones, to spend the day with our loved ones, reading books under the trees by their headstones. So we were tuned in stronger several years ago versus now, where we don't necessarily have that connection any longer. Many of the books that focus on this will focus on the supernatural, because there is many places you can go to tune into these energies and places where you may not want to tune into these energies. So it's also good to know how to protect yourself from awakening to these energies if it's something that you're not looking for in your life. The symbolism of thinning of the veil just means that we're able to look beyond, to see beyond what's in our current reality, to know that there's more beyond this. There's more beyond our dreams. There's more beyond our wishes. There's something more always around us, yet we can't always quite put our finger on it. So if we can tune into it, it will help us grow. If you'd like to transition with the thinning of the veil, start learning how to celebrate the seasons. Celebrate with each season. During Samhain and Beltane, we'll see a great shift in energy. So the veil gets very thin and it gets not so thin. And during Beltane, it also thins out again. So we have two times versus life and death when the veil is at its thinnest. But again, once you learn how to tune into that, you can always tune into it. But the seasons play a very valuable part when you're trying to come up with this energy. So pay attention as well to the celestial events in the sky. The equinoxes and the solstices are going to be very powerful times for you to understand what's happening in the spirit realm. How can you tune in better? Maybe automatic writing. And I do a video on this in the past where you learn all the ways to practice divination. Automatic writing, scrying, trying to channel things in your dreams, or just simply sitting in meditation and in seance form. When you open up to the potential of different connections in the spirit realm, you also open up different realms. So be aware and always cast some protection magic over yourself or carry talismans of protection for yourself, because you don't know what you're opening yourself up to when you do this. And this is also what causes a lot of fear within people when they start saying they're talking to their loved ones or someone who's passed over. They fear what else is coming through. With that said, make sure fear is way on the back burner. You don't want to be naive and go in without protection, but you also don't want to come from a place of fear. You want to come from a place of genuine love, respect, and honoring your loved ones who have passed on. Or if you're reaching out in general to spirit, you're just going to want to be able to listen and not come with a place that's expecting something out of it. You can also take part in rituals or celebrations, seance circles, or even offerings like building spirit houses, making an altar for a deeper divination or seances, lighting a candle with a picture of the loved one near them. It will help you tune into that frequency. Holding an item of theirs will also help because it brings their physical energy into your subconscious mind. Keep that collective focus and intention set. When you're trying to get information, when you're trying to understand the questions that you're asking Spirit, stay focused. Have a guideline printed out or written out in front of you. Don't go in there blindly and just start asking random stuff, and don't ask silly questions that may come off as disrespectful. Always be respectful, just as if you were talking to someone that is an elder or someone that you have respect for. Meditation, prayer, and divination are all practices that will bring you closer to talking to Spirit during the time when the veil is at its thinnest. During Samhain, it's a great time to practice any of these things. If you're trying to tune into your loved ones, sit with them in prayer, light a candle for them. These are celebrations and rituals that can be passed down to your children as well. There's nothing spooky about that. It's all about honoring a loved one. It could be a grandparent. It could be a great-grandparent that they possibly knew. Light a candle next to their photo, sit with them in meditation and prayer, and your children will love this, and it will become a tradition for them as well to pass on to their own children, because it shows the respect for the people who have walked before us and the blood that we share in our veins with the people that we've learned from, whether through generational gifts and talents or through stories that we've heard when we were little. Either way, we're keeping their energy alive and their spirit alive. And by doing that, we're keeping that bond and that connection between the worlds, and when the veil's thin, at its strongest. Also, pay attention to the environmental changes around you. If there's fog or rain, play on that, because the fog actually carries the energy stronger. So does rain. Water moves energy as well. So when we have wind as well, you'll feel the stronger connection. You might even feel electric a little bit in your body, like your skin is either crawling or just like vibrating. And so pay attention to that, because if you go into a cemetery, for example, to visit a loved one's grave and a fog starts creeping in, it could be their energy trying to come in closer and riding that wave of water to act like a conduit for clear communication. If you're trying to work with energies during the veil being at its thinnest, work in liminal spaces. Also pay attention to your lighting. Very bright light is going to take you out of that energy. Stay in a natural light. Candlelight's the best. Sunlight, dusk, dawn, whenever you want to work. Early morning and late in the evening is always going to be your best bet when you're looking into channeling. There's also less distractions from outside. There's less trucks driving by, people shouting and hollering. It's quieter, it's calmer, and there's a sense of security around you. When you feel safe, you only bring safe energy in. So if you can control when you're trying to tune into the other realm, you will be able to tune in a deeper frequency. So when is the veil the thinnest? Samhain. Samhain, the autumn season. It's when the trees are telling you death is upon us. That is the time you work with the energies. That's the time you're going to feel it naturally too. Even if you didn't know this information before, you would always know that as a child, you felt the shift in the air. Something different about the breeze during the autumn season. Something smelled different. And it smelled a little bit like death, but it's also that possibility of new energy and new life. So the autumn season kind of ignites us for that last breath of air before we have our final send-off. Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, is another big holiday for celebrating the thinning veil and the loved ones who have passed on, as well as Beltane and All Souls Day. When working between the living and the dead and the thinning veil of our realms, be respectful, be mindful of what you're bringing in, what intentions you're holding, and what it is you're trying to achieve. Be very, very clear on what it is you're trying to achieve. Don't go in there blindly. Don't go in there foolishly, and just pay attention, because if you want to connect and set up a Samhain altar, for example, for your ancestors, make sure it's only for your ancestors or positive spirits that can help bring good energy. If you're praying to gods and goddesses, make sure you're very clear about who's invited to this energy, who's invited to this table, and keep the energy very strong in that protection. Also, go ahead and carve as many pumpkins as you want, because there's no bad thing in scaring off evil entities or scaring off low vibrational energies, because pumpkins is the greatest ritual you can do during Samhain to scare off that low vibrational energy, or just any energy that may be coming for your own energy in your daily life that might cause you bad luck or things like that. You can say, I don't want any more of that energy going into the new year, and simply make a pumpkin for that. Hold an intention on your pumpkin as well. That's the fun and glory of Samhain and the thinning of the veil. And really just learn about it as much as you can. Practice meditation, practice divination, get familiar with these things, and remove fear. Fear is going to be your worst enemy. Once that's removed, you're only going to go up from there. So I hope you guys like this video. I wish you all the best. Happy Samhain and blessed be. Bye.